So thank you for everyone joining Privacy Talk. I'm so glad to have Luis today from Spain. He's working so very excellent project at this moment. I'm happy to share his experiences as well. So Luis, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Kohei, to have the chance to collaborate with you. It was my pleasure to meet you in the meetings in Tokyo, and thank you for this Privacy Talk and Privacy by Design organization, because I think that you are doing a very interesting work, and I feel so honored to participate on it.
Thank you. So first of all, I introduce his profile. Luis is a member of the Spanish DPA for 16 years, first like head of inspection and later like director of the Innovation Technology Division. Previously, he has been working for 16 years in Ministry of Defense, like a head of radar laboratory, head of aerospace projects, and security analyst. Regarding his educational background and AI, he is a PhD in topics regarding microelectronics, fuzzy logic, computer engineer, master in computers, master in ICT management, and MBA. He started with the programming of chatbot and genetic algorithm in the late 18th. He got a grant in a public contest to implement AI fuzzy logic system, developed the ML system to autofocus of spaceborne radar systems, worked in the AI multi-agent system of tactical military simulators, supporter of the guidelines released by the Spanish EPA, audit requirements of personal data processing activities involving AI and GDPR compliance of processing that embedded artificial intelligence, an introduction among the other releases, and carried out the several postgraduate course in ML and data science. So I'm excited to explore with your story today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, let's get started today's agenda. So you have a bunch of experiences in the data protection field. So my first question is, so why did you start to work in the data protection space?
It is a good question, Kohei. It's a good question. As you said in the introduction, I started to work in a very narrow field because I was working mainly in aerospace and defense projects, and many of such projects were closely related with surveillance. I needed to have a change because data protection give the chance to work in many different business sectors, in many different fields, because you know that data protection applies to any kind of businesses, and it allowed me to have a much broader view of the technology, the use of the technology, the impact of the technology. As you said, my background is it's always looking for cutting edge technologies and try to understand them and to work on them. But I was a little far because it's something so common when you are trying to be a specialist in technical field. It is so hard to understand not the technology like something isolated that I will apply in a specific topic, but how it is applied in different business sectors and how it impact to the people. To work in data protection allows us, all the people that we are working in this topic on privacy, allow us to be near the real problems of the people, understand how it affects the use of the digital economy and the new technologies in digital economy, to understand what are the impacts in the fundamental rights of the citizens, because privacy is regarding fundamental rights, how to help people and even the legal entities to get the best of the technology, but with the protections of something that it is now so important, that it is our real human nature.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your important notice about the data protection. Now you involved in a Spanish data protection authority, especially for the tech division space. That's very interesting in the role of the directions. So could you share about your role then? What your commitment at the Spanish data protection authority?
I think I'm so lucky to be now in the Spanish Data Protection Authority, because as you said, I spent 11 years like in the inspection team. The inspection team allowed me to go into many legal entities. I was inspecting many companies, even many data public bodies that came from small companies to telecommunication companies to the police to the judges to many ministries to big health companies, everything. After that, the current director of our current commissioner, Mar España, decided to create a division in the agency devoted in topics of innovation and technology. The main purposes was to develop one of the GDPR principles, that it is the accountability principle. You know perfectly, Kohei, what are the principles on privacy, like data minimizations, security, like limit of purposes, and so on. But there is another principle that it is so important in the European regulation, that this is the accountability principle. And many of the professionals in data protection, they had difficulties to understand what was the accountability principle. This is one of the main roles of this division: develop this accountability principle in a new scenario, in a new world where there is a great use, an important use of the technology in the data processing. As you know, the processing is the data processing is defined not only by the roles of controller and processor, by the nature, the scope of the processing, the context, the purposes, and the risk. The risk for the rights and freedom of the people. And in the framework of the accountability principle, one of the most important topics that we have to deal to fulfill the compliance in GDPR is to manage the risk for the rights and freedoms of the people. Even the word risk is 73 times in the GDPR. And we are talking about not to manage the risk for the business continuity of the process of the company, the risk of fraud, the financial risk, the risk for the security of the state, even not the cyber risk. We are dealing with something bigger. That this is the risk for the people. The people are not only the clients, are the own employees, is the same CEOs of the companies. And together with understand and to learn to the real world what means accountability, what means risk for the rights and freedoms of the people, we have to understand what are the implications of the new technologies, to understand the details and nuances of the new technologies when we apply them to process personal data. You know that this is a saying that is the devil is in the details. And now the technology has a lot of details. We need to understand what it's doing in the background, to understand what are the real impacts that could have the new technologies regarding privacy. Impacts in the positive and in the negative way. We are not talking only about threats, but the technology gives us a lot of opportunities to implement privacy for the whole citizens. Then we need to understand, and we develop a lot of material about the internet, artificial intelligence, biometrics, neural data, blockchains, and so on. We have to learn all the principles of the GDPR, not only the accountability principle, to learn on specific use cases, specific processes that are implemented with new systems. Because GDPR doesn't deal with system, deals with processing activities that are implemented in different systems. Systems that could be artificial intelligence system together with security system, together with cyber security system, together with cloud systems, and so on.
Yeah, that's very curious role. Besides the legal actions, the like technology have a very important role to be account and to be implement of the privacy and data protection in our society. So that's a role is remarkable to lead this initiative. So idealizing the similar actions in different authorities as well. So as for the next topics, I'd like to explore with you about the transitions. Thanks to your very excellent experiences in the data protection space, you had experienced many of the like trend in over 10 years in the data protection space. So could you share about what has changed the data protection privacy trend? Since you had started to work on the authority before?
This is a very good question, Kohei. We have to take into account that in the last 15 years, the context of the processing of personal data has changed completely. Mainly in the scale, the amount of data collected, all the aspect of our own life that now are on the automatic personal data processing, the impacts on that data processing have, and the amount of information that is possible to generate and to inference from the people from that data. Because there is something that is so important. There's a difference between data from information. And now we can get a lot of information of the same data that could be collected in the 90s. The things have changed completely. Now, for example, internet is not an option. Internet is mandatory. I cannot really develop my own life with the use of internet services. This is good, and this is bad too. We shouldn't depend on internet, but we should get the best from internet. But anyway, if internet is not an option, we cannot face the protection of privacy the same way that we faced 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I think that the name of your organization, Kohei, it's so good chosen. Privacy by design. This is one of the main things that we have changed between 15 years ago. We are not talking any longer about legal warranties. We are not talking any longer about only legal warranties and security or cybersecurity. We have to talk about something different. We have to talk about how we manage the privacy by design and the privacy by default in our society. It's not a question of a single human. It is we as single humans, our relation with our environment and the whole society. And this has changed completely.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because we picking the designing is the key parts of the elements to to the old internet users can be protected based on the data processing. So that's the combinations of the new tech and compliance that accountable might be the very big important actions for the enterprise or any authorities to work together for the future privacy environments. And then the next topic is a similar that you had made a speech at the very interesting conference with the European institution NISA. Then you mentioned very important topics about in the data space. So my next question is, what do you envision as the impact of the technology and innovation on the data protection space?
This is a complex question, Kohei. I've chosen the title of the current division, like in innovation and technology, because innovation and technology are two different things. I had the chance once to talk with a very wise man that told me that innovation is not technology. Innovation is management. Management take the technology and get the best of such technology. If I could give you an example, is like if I talk about steam machines, the ones that started the industrial revolutions. The technology is the steam machine, but the management means railroads, means maintenance, means to build logistics over the railroads, and it is all management, and it made the industrial revolution. That kind of management. Technology creates opportunities. When we have a technology, when we got the steam machine or we got the first computer, we created opportunities in many different directions. good opportunities and bad opportunities. And now is the way to get the best of such opportunities, to understand why they could give us, to understand what are the drawbacks of the technology, and to manage to create new opportunities. And new opportunities are opportunities of profits, opportunities to develop new services, opportunities to create new business sectors, and opportunities to protect the rights and freedoms of the citizens. And to do so, we have to be to not to just to give up to the current drawbacks of the technology. The technology has the drawbacks that we are looking for. We have to resist when we are pushed by companies and even by governments that we have a problem that we have to accept the technologies in the way that they are used currently, the technologies in the way they are managed currently. When we have, and on the contrary, we have to see with technology, we can change the things for better. As anybody that has been working for technology, everything could be changed. That's the good of technology. And in the digital technology, it's even easier to change things and to change it faster and to change it faster for good. Because at the end, one of the problems that we see in the current developments is a trend to think in the short term. Here we have to think in the long term. We have to think about to create something that is in fashion. It is sustainability. We have to take the technology and to manage in the long term to get a sustainability, not only in the economy, but in our societies, because we are talking about how our societies are working. We have to keep the control in our hands about our life, our environment, and our societies. To keep that control and to make it sustainable in the long term, despite that it is important to get return of investment in the short term. But one of the problems when we are talking now about how to use technology is to forget the management to the long term to get it real profit for everybody. Because the same companies that they are looking for short term, they will fail if this digital economy is not sustainable in the long term.
Yeah, I think this sustainability is then taken into the purpose of the using the, of course, in the space is the personal data. That's very important to, of course, regulate it. But we need to give opportunity to take innovation based on the management process, as you mentioned. That's a very important quotation. We should adhere to the process to creating the new technology in that space. So you mentioned the innovation is coming from the management. That's a very good words. And I suppose the next topic is sticking into your new challenges in the space. So you work with the new identity project for the age verification. That's kind of the important for the safety for the use they're using on the internet. So could you share about your current project and what are you planning to organize the new age verification system?
For us, it's a very important project, but not the age verification only. It's the real protection of children in internet. Age verification is a tool to get such purpose. And like any technology solution, it could be applied in the right way or the wrong way. And we are so worried about that. I think it's an example of what we were talking before. Right now, we have to face a reality. There is an evident problem with internet and children. The problem is there. We see that there are problems with addiction, manipulation, and there is a real impact in the mental and physical integrity of the children. it is not stopping the children. It has an impact in the whole society, in the parents, and how that children will be tomorrow adults in the society. And we realized that there was big pressures to keep children dependable users. They don't understand technology. They are users. That it is different, because many people say, no, the children should develop themselves in the technology. They are not dealing with technology. They are dealing like users of a specific interface that are object of profit, monetization, and manipulation. When we have this situation, we have to open our mind and to see that it is a structural problem. There is a tendency to try to resolve only with technology structural problems in our society, and it is a big mistake. Technology could be a tool that helps to face structural problems, but they don't resolve directly only structural problems. They create another layer that could hide some aspects. But first, we have to face the roots of these problems, and a structural problem needs a structural solution. When we are talking about the children, we have directly an emotional impact. But we have to be rational, because we shouldn't take emotional solutions. We have to think carefully, and not to fall in the paradox that to take care of the children, we will be more intrusive into the children's life, and we will make a systematic surveillance of all people. This is a trap that we cannot fall down into. We have not to, because sometimes they force us in a dichotomy. They force us to only to two choices. We will leave the children completely exposed to internet. It is like to say, I will put the children alone in the shopping mall or in the countryside. Or the other chance, I put all children, and I will put on all humans under control and surveillance in internet by the internet service providers, the state, and so on, continuously. And I think that there is a third options. We have to create an internet safe by default, and we have to introduce privacy, but because privacy at the end are rights of the citizens by design and by default. That is the point, and it is the proposal that we were pushing from the Spanish commissioner. It was one of the main topics of our current commissioner, Mar España. We realized that it have to change the point of view when we face the problem to protect the children in internet. To protect the children of internet, the first thing that we shouldn't do is to find children in internet and tracking children in internet. This is not the way. Many people say you have to find children in internet, to identify the children across internet, to adapt the services to the children. It is, I think that it is dangerous, so dangerous. It is crazy. It exposes the children to be used and abused. And it is exposed, and it is, if you think about this, it is a strategy that thinks, I will expose the children to the danger. I will make surveillance on the children. Where the harm happens, when the harm just happens in the children, I don't know for how long, then I react. And who reacts? The parents, the state, even no. The internet services with their own interest. This is the wrong way to do so. It is possible to give back the control of personal data to the physical persons, in such way to keep the anonymity, at least regarding the access to adult content. Because the point is that the adult people can choose if they want to access to adult content or not. Not to put the burden of the proof on the children, neither the surveillance on the children, but to move the burden of proof on the adults that request and want to access or to be exposed to some threats when they access to internet. Many people think that the only threat in internet for the children is the access to some kind of content. But there is a risk of the contact, that anyone can contact a children right now. Why? Why the tool? If I want to be exposed in internet and that anybody can contact me, is my decision. Perhaps I don't want that. Perhaps I am an adult and I assume the risk. But this is not the responsibility of to expose themselves. That should be protected about that. There is the content risk, the contact risk, the contract risk, the location risk. Not only the location in the virtual world, but the connection of the connection in the virtual world with the real world. And there is the risk of the conduct, the way of behave of the children, that they are so toxic with the children, and there is not only an impact to the mental integrity. There is impact sometimes with the cases of food disorder to the children. The point is, let's create an internet safe by default for everybody. We don't need to identify the people. We have to keep and to protect the right of all people to access to adult content, but not to expose by default children to content, contact, contract, or conducting risk. And this is what we are looking for, and this is our proposal. The proposal is that it is important to protect the children, but focusing to protecting the rights and freedom and the fundamental rights of all citizens, including the children, because they have fundamental rights too. And fundamental rights, what are the fundamental rights? All of that allow us to develop as human.
Yeah, that sounds very tremendous work and this project. And if we can look at the more specific details of this project, so what kind of the solution that you want to use to achieve these project goals, and just like you work with identity or some kind of the technical solution might be a good approach from these visions, or so what kind of the solution are you coming up in your mind?
It's not just an idea, but now they are starting to be real developments that approach to the final result. First, we have to take into account that to protect children and to protect the adults, because there is not only the children, the only vulnerable people, that it is put in situation of vulnerability. Sometimes in internet, we can think, for example, to our elder people, that it has problems similar. But when we want to put a solution, we cannot think only about age verification tool. The age verification tool is solutions. But if, for example, a service provider knows that I am an adult, I need more things to implement there. Because first, what is the content or the services that I must be protected from? Who decides that? the internet service provider, an internet service provider that is located, for example, in a cultural region of the world that is very different from my cultural region, is the states, are the professors, the educators, the NGOs, are their own family. Not all families have the same problems. Not all the children have the same problems. Then I need to have control about what are the contents that I have to protect, or the kind of services that I have to protect from the children. Later, who make the filtering when I am doing so? It is doing internet service provider. It is doing in a third party. Because in such cases, when they are filtering me for some kind of criteria, they are profiling me. When I put labels to a content, a site, a service, or a functionality, they are labeling me. Then I think that it is so important to take that into account. And what we propose from the Spanish Commissioner is to talk about all the system, the age verification, the way to make the filtering, and to be able to supervise and to adapt the criteria to make the filtering. What we propose is to do all that things in the own device, in the device of the user. Not only to process the condition that authorize it to access to another content. I don't need to process the age, because the age is so dangerous, because some content it's open for people over 14 years old, for example. But a 16 years old girl is a potential target. But an 86 old woman is a potential target too. And this is a kind of information that I have to take into account. I have to process the condition that if for some kind of specific content, service, or functionality, I am authorized to access, and I want to access, because it's different. There are two things. That processing should be done, the processing of such authorization and the filtering should be done in the own device. Not that information shouldn't travel to the internet service provider, and should it be processed in the internet servers in internet. Because right now, many of the services are running on an app in the cell phone, in the browser of the cell phone, or requires that I download something from the Play stores of the cell phones. Then there is where I have to process the information in the own device. Therefore, I can audit it. I can see what happened. I can see what kind of filtering is doing. I can adapt that kind of filtering. And the filtering doesn't produce a profile in me to identify that I am a children by default, or I am an adult that wants to access to some content. And in the way to process such, to generate such information about I am authorized to access to some kind of content, that information should be processed and not go out of the device. I have to have the chance to choose what identification scheme I will use to go into. Perhaps I want to use certificates because I trust on certificates. Perhaps I want to use my ID card, or I want to use my passport. And there is independent, the ID scheme from the age verification application that should process directly with the interface of the internet service, but their own device. In such way, there is an independent from identification from the age verification, that it is so important, because in such a way, I can choose what is the identity scheme that I want to use. I keep my right to my own identity, and I don't need to use an identity as a service. That it means restrictions in my rights, I generate inside my own device an age status, not my age, an age status that allow me to access. The burden of proof is not in the children. The children doesn't need to identify. It's the adults that wants to access to such kind of services, not the adults in all moment for any content and by default they have to access. No, by default they don't access. I don't want to be exposed to some kind of threats in internet. Just when I want to that I am an adult that want to be exposed in internet, to expose my identity, to expose me to some kind of service. This is when I have to do something and to restrict what consider risk a threat, not to extend to everything, not to extend to all content, to all movies, to all books, to all things that I have I can purchase. And the key point is to keep our own identity, to don't need to rely to third parties, to not expose our condition of children, neither our condition of adults, or neither the age, to process all the information in their own device. The devices now are extremely powerful. There is no need to make, for example, biometrics that goes, nobody knows, and they decide with a lot, with some errors, if I am adult or not, and they identify children in internet. This is not needed. It is possible to do it with different approaches about identity, keeping the identity of our rights and not creating a limiting. The processing in the own cell phone, the filtering in the own cell phone, it makes resistant, for example, to VPNs. That is one of the problems. It makes that I can combine with other kinds of protections like parental controls and so on. And the most important, this is a technology approach to a structural problem. Don't pretend that any technology approach will resolve structural problems. We have to change many things. Not only how the services are provided by the internet service providers. We have to change many things regarding the education of the children and the abuse that we are doing of the access of the children to systems that they really don't need right now.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the details, and that's very challenging. But achieving this project might be the good reference for the others to follow to protect the children's rights on the internet space. So I cheer them work and happy to be successful this new project. In the end, I would like to ask you about the short message for listeners. Maybe you involved in a data protection space for a long time, then happy to deliver your important message to the listeners. So could you share about it?
Thank you for the chance to send a little message. Many times when I have to deal with controllers and processors, I want to make them understand what we are doing. Our main interest is to protect their rights and freedoms. What is privacy? It's like protect your right and freedom to think, to act, to make things in internet, to make things in the real world, to the free thinking, to the free will, to avoid discrimination, to allow your free education and information, to free beliefs. This is privacy, because sometimes the people doesn't understand that. When I talk with somebody that it is talking about a new service, a new business with data, I want to transmit them that I'm there to protect their own rights, the rights of that engineer, that manager, that CEO, the rights for their wives, their children, their grandparents. This is our job. And there is not incompatibility. Protection of privacy make sustainable products, sustainable economy. They push out the people that develop things with low quality. Because when you have low quality, you have low quality in everything. low quality in privacy, low quality in the service, problems of safety, problems of security. What we are talking is to develop services with quality. Now we are in a turning point in our society that we started to detect what are the problems to manage low quality services, that they don't guarantee us that tomorrow everything will work properly. Remember what happened the last July 19th, that we have a structural problem because a lack of resilience of our systems. We will see more problems like that. And it is due because we requested so low quality standards. And one of key points of the quality standards is the protection of privacy. When we are talking about security, security is so important in internet. Privacy is not security, it's more than security. There is no security if there is no privacy, because the weakest part of the security system are the humans, are the persons. And when the privacy is broken, the security is broken. We are relying now everything in the digital systems. We are talking about the digital economy. Everything is digital culture, digital economy, digital education. Then we have to control that. To control in the good sense. To control in the way that we can manage that technology and such resources, keeping our freedom, keeping our the human touch, the human intervention, keeping the use of technology to get better quality of the service and the products and better quality in our own life.
Yeah, that's a brilliant message. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Again, very appreciated Luis joining in your businesses, and I'm so appreciated to having a call like this. So let's keep updates then. Looking forward to your great feedbacks on your new project. So yeah, thank you for joining today.
It was my real pleasure, and I wish you a lot of success in your work. That I think is so important. I was so impressed.
Thank you.